And the knight comes out to c3. We have Madhvendra Pratap Sharma taking on Siddhanth Poonja at the 7th round of Under 13 Nationals 2025. And we have an accelerated dragon on the board. Let's just have a look at the first few moves to see how this position was reached. And this is where we are right now with bishop e3. Knight comes out to f6. The reason this is called the accelerated dragon is because d6 hasn't been played yet. Bishop c4. Madhvendra goes for the right move order. Black castles. White plays the bishop to b3. And now rook to e8. An interesting idea by Siddhant. f3. Madhvendra is well prepared. Man, look at the preparation by these players. e6 played with the idea of d5. And Madhvendra is even prepared here. Goes f4. Amazing. Amazing. Well, the thing is, if the pawn comes to e6, f4 makes more sense. d6 played. And this is high class opening prep by both the players. You know, just to show you guys that even at this very young age, both of them are super well prepared. Bishop comes to f8, defending the pawn on d6. And let's see if Madhvendra is still in his preparation. This time he starts to think a bit. Close to 4 minutes. And plays queen f3. Again the best move in the position. Wow, that's amazing. He's actually preparing perhaps long castle here. a6 played here by Siddhant. And for players who are under 13, Madhvendra and Siddhant are two amazing players of Indian chess. Knight to d4. He comes back. And now, is Siddhant still in his prep? Yes, he is. 1 hour 35 minutes. That's intense. That's intense. Madhvendra pushes forward with e5. This does remind us of the famous game of Fischer versus Reshevsky. Takes the bishop on b3. The rook is hanging here, so you need to take the knight. And while Madhvendra is at 1 hour, he's at 56 minutes, 1 hour 35 for Siddhant. Knight takes b3. And now Siddhant goes knight d5 once again in his prep. Now for Madhvendra, knight e4 is the best move. He finds it. He plays his knight to e4 and pawn to b5 played here by Siddhant. And maybe the best move here is bishop d4. But Madhvendra short castles here. Bishop b7 makes a lot of sense in the position. He plays it. Bishop to b7. There's a pin on this diagonal. So maybe queen f2 is a necessary move. And that's what Madhvendra plays. These two boys are playing like super high quality chess. But Madhvendra is down to 37 minutes. While Siddhant has 1 hour 4 minutes on the clock. Knight takes on e3. And now a very important intermezzo, knight f6, and he gives up the queen. Wow, that's amazing. Look at this, knight f6, queen f6. If he had moved the king, then white would have had a dominating position. And now knight takes f1. Also possible was knight g2 with these two bishops, just two pieces for a rook. But here he takes on f1. Rook takes f1 taken here. Who's better here? Is it white with the queen or is it black with a bishop and a rook? Well, we'll have to see this fight. The engine thinks that white is slightly better. Rook c8 played, attacking the pawn on c2. And now Madhvendra goes for another beautiful move, rook e1. You know, guys, these under 13 kids are playing like grandmasters here, you know. What accuracy. Bishop d5. And Madhvendra plays pawn to c3. Black does have compensation, that is for sure. The two bishops trying to open up stuff with b4. He goes rook c7, a bit slow, I must say. And now knight jumps into d4. And rook comes to c8. And maybe now a3 played so that b4 is difficult to execute. 18 minutes for Madhvendra, 38 for Siddhant. Rook to c5. And the black king is safe because even though you have a pawn here, it's not so easy for the queen to enter in because of the bishop. So how is white going to break through is the big question. Well, is Madhvendra going for a sacrifice? No, he goes knight c2. He's like, why should I go for some f5 stuff when I can simply grind this position calmly? Knight b4, knight e3, bishop goes to a8. And now white jumps in, knight to e3 played. The black pawn moves up to a5 and b4 is on the cards. He goes queen to d2 and rook jumps up to c6. Pawn to h4, h3. He doesn't play pawn to h4, just h3 played here calmly. And rook c8 back. Madhvendra plays his queen to d3, just bringing it one step ahead. It's a game of patience here. Rook h5. But now maybe is a time to play b4 and he finds it. Now the rook is gone from this very important square. And black's pieces are a bit misplaced and Madhvendra instantly realizes that b4 is good. c3 pawn is no longer possible to attack. King h2 played with the idea of g4. The rook would have lost any squares that it has on the 5th rank. So bishop comes to h6, attacking the f4 pawn. Maybe just rook f1. Takes on d6, that's even better perhaps. Queen takes d6 taken. And now Siddhant pushes e5. He's kind of getting a bit desperate here. But Madhvendra is just very precise. He goes knight to g4, giving up this pawn on f4. But Siddhant doesn't take it because king would have just moved away. Queen to d2. And e takes f4 played. And rook e5. Very good move. Very good move to trade off the rooks. White is ahead in material. Trading it off makes sense. A takes b4 taken. And how is Madhvendra going to continue here? He plays a takes b4 back. 3 minutes for him, 11 minutes for Siddhant. Rook takes rook, knight takes rook, bishop e8. Once again, some technical difficulties to convert this, or should this be easy? Queen to d4 played. Madhvendra, just amazing. And for Siddhant, it's not so easy to even find a move here. He goes rook a8. And now Madhvendra's hand lurks around the h pawn. h4 played. He's planning to go h5. there is rook a6 to attack the f6 pawn. So I have to be careful here. And queen to d8. Another great move. Now you must go rook e6. That's the only move. He defends it, attacks the knight. And knight f3 is a must for Madhvendra. Well, he goes knight to d7. But here, well, he goes bishop d6. But he could have taken, and played rook e3. And this was really good chances here for black. But bishop d6 goes king g1. And rook e3 played. Now this is a critical error. 2 minutes left for Madhvendra to figure out what's the next move here. He goes king f2. Of course, you can't take here. The e8 bishop is hanging. So pawn to h6 played. And Madhvendra, even though his position is totally winning, it's a little bit complicated. He sacks a piece here. If bishop e5, that is queen e8. So rook e5 taken, and now queen takes d6. And rook e4. Black rook moves a step ahead. Madhvendra thinking. King to f3 gives another check, but now you can pick up the pawn. Why not? He takes it. King takes, and rook comes back to e6 to attack the queen and the pawn, but now just queen d4 or queen d8. Both look good. Queen d8 with just 19 seconds on the clock. Time could become an important factor in this game. h5 played here by Siddhant. And queen to c8. Well, that's a big mistake. He should have just played king g5, tried to go in like Nigel shot. But queen c8, and now rook takes f6 is falling with a check. He takes it. Madhvendra's advantage dips in a massive way. Well, I think it was the time pressure that got onto him. King e4, and you can see him getting a bit worried here. Now next rook e6, king g7, bishop c6. Black is alive and kicking. Check. King d4. One of Madhvendra's idea is c4 and create a passer. But really kudos to Siddhant for fighting so hard. King g7. And now pawn to g3. Just waiting there. King goes to h7. Black also waits in. And now it's time to break on the queen side with pawn to c4 to create a passer. That's what he does. Pawn to c4 played. Now Siddhant thinking about whether he should take the pawn, or maybe you can take, right? Like take here, you must take back with the queen perhaps. If you take back with the king, rook c6 and black wins. He's also down to a minute on the clock. He takes b takes c4. Now Madhvendra can take back with the queen. Takes it. Well, to make the pawn, in fact, I feel like if b5, bishop takes b5 could also potentially be a draw. You know, like king e5, rook e6. So let's say king d5 and then I play king g7. You go b5 and even this position, bishop takes b5, queen b5. This would be a draw, 3 versus 2. So actually this position is drawn. Now king d5 played. And Siddhant goes rook f6. Wow. And I think Madhvendra knows that if he pushes the pawn, his opponent, in fact here he doesn't even have to take it, goes rook f5 check. So queen to d4 attacking the rook. And rook e6 feels like the right move. He goes rook f5 check and bishop b5. But Madhvendra is getting in with his king. Now very important here to stop it by king g8. If the king gets in here, it's a mate. So king comes back to g8. Good defense here. The queen moves back to c3. And bishop to f1 played. And now it's simple. Just go back. Bishop b5, bishop f1. And it's a draw. So he goes king d6. Bishop to b5. And look at Madhvendra. He's a bit upset. Siddhant looks calm. He plays his bishop there. No, where? Yeah, bishop f1. Yeah, back and forth, back and forth. Looks good. And now, in order to make some progress, he pushes his h-pawn. G-pawn, sorry. H takes g4 now by Siddhant. Takes it. Queen takes. And now just come back, bishop b5. There's no h5 business because of rook takes. So bishop b5 played. Queen e4. From a totally dominating position, Madhvendra now is in a drawn position, clearly unhappy with how the things have fared for him. King g8 and king e7. And now maybe a small trap here is set. He goes bishop f1 and misses maybe a key point here that Madhvendra can push h5. And the main point being that after takes, check, king h7, the king can get in. Whoa! So here g takes h5, but this is a blunder. And look at Madhvendra. Queen g1 check. And for him it's a big shock that Siddhant did this. Insane. Insane finish. King h7. What a game this has been between these two youngsters. King f8. Absolutely stunning. I think this will go down as one of the most important games in under 13 nationals. Because both of these boys are going to become great players, and you know, he loses on time, but queen g7 was a mate. In this position, Siddhant blundered with the move bishop f1, but it was so difficult to understand that this was a mistake, and Madhvendra had set a big trap. Bishop a4 was fine, and so was bishop e2. But why was bishop f1 a mistake? Look at this deep point. After h5, which is an incredible resource, now rook takes h5 if taken, which was not played in the game. There's a check. if king h7, but let's first look at king g7, which is an important move. Check, king h7, and I take here, and you lose the bishop. That is one of the key points. Imagine if the bishop was on a4 here or on e2, king h6 would have been a draw. So at this point, king h7 is possible, but then I enter with my king f8, with the threat of queen f6. And let's say if you play here, I have a check and it's already game over because of this attack. So very beautiful move here, h5 by Madhvendra. And in the game, very big mistake by Siddhant that he missed the queen g1 move and king f8, which was winning. Just going back to this moment where instead of bishop b5, let's say bishop e2, h5, maybe the only try. Now there is bishop h5 also possible, and if rook h5, the same idea with queen f8 check, king h7, queen f7, king h6 should end in a draw. So very key moment and a beautiful end to the game.
Hi Madhvendra, how are you?
I'm fine.
This was a very long game against Siddhanth Poonja. So tell us something about your game.
So it was like a crucial game. Whoever wins will be the sole leader of the tournament. And we both were also trying to win the game, and it was very interesting and full of opportunities for both of us.
The game got very tricky when Siddhant played this unusual line where he took the queen to f6. So were you prepared for this? Knight f6, queen f6, pawn takes f6, this queen sacrifice, exchange sacrifice.
Actually, that's not the theory. We were figuring out on the board, but when he played the Sicilian dragon, that accelerated dragon, I was not that well prepared for that. I mean, for that specific line, and yeah, queen into f6 was like he had to do it at some point because like all his position is like very cramped and my pieces are very active. So I think that's the only line he could like equalize and press.
So after the middle game only, were you confident that you should convert it, or were you unsure that it could go either way, or maybe a draw or win? What was your thoughts back then?
Actually, when I got the queen, I was a bit surprised first of all because I didn't think that he would like risk so much for slightly like plus. Even I'm having some plus position. Then I mean, in the game itself, yeah, he should not have played like queen f6. But in the game, I was like in time pressure and. Yeah, I was trying to get him also in time pressure, then I'll try to break through something.
And it really worked for you and you managed to convert it very smoothly. Also, tell us something about your journey. You have been very consistent player and performing really well throughout past few years. Tell us something about your journey.
So I started playing chess at 5 and actually 4 and my grandfather taught me. So I started having like confidence at playing games and it was more fun to win. Yeah, so I started playing nationals and when I performed great, then I also felt great.
Okay. And when you started, like when did this happen that you decided that I should pursue professional chess?
When I started playing chess, that was my goal.
Okay. When you started, from that time you had a very clear goal that you have to play it professionally.
Yes.
Okay. And who are your coach and who is your current coach?
So right now my coach is Grandmaster Sharma sir, and I'm also in an academy, Genius Chess Academy, Chittorgarh, Rajasthan, where Grandmaster Praveen sir and IM Bhageshri Thudse ma'am they're teaching.
Okay, so you are getting coached by a lot of very strong players, 2 GMs, 1 WIM.
There are also like so many other coaches, multiple coaches I'm having.
So you have worked with multiple coaches and now you are...
Yeah, Ramesh sir is also there, RB Ramesh sir, Chola Chess Academy, and Pavan sir, and lot of coaches.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much for joining, and wish you the very best for upcoming rounds.
Thank you.